So what does the West Texas Touchdown Club have to worry about this year?
Finding a way to score touchdowns, right? So that's what that's what we're hoping to do is put some points on the board and score some touchdowns. So had a little fun coming up with that name. Kind of way to build the camaraderie with the unit. So we have a good time with it.
What have you seen so far from this unit, and what do you think is the biggest strength of this unit right now?
I think we have really good depth, and guys are playing really hard. I think we're doing a really good job of competing and straining. There's a lot of things that when you watch the practice, the details of the system, that we still need to clean up. But I think I've been proud of the group's effort. From top down, I think we have a lot of guys that I feel really good about. If we had to play a game tomorrow, we could put guys in there, and you could trust a lot of the guys on that roster.
So who stands out from all these players that is the one player that you know that if you needed to make one play, you could depend on that person?
Yeah, one player to make one play. I'm probably going to go to Caleb Douglas. He's been a guy. He's done it here before, and he's shown up in practice. But I think J.C. Miller has been a guy that's shown up, caught a couple nice passes. Kelby Vaslin's having a really good spring. Reggie Virgil on the other side has made plays, and all three running backs have been doing a good job. So there's a lot of guys. Singling out one is tough, but yeah, I think we've got a lot of depth right now. A lot of guys that I would trust in that situation.
How would you kind of analyze the running back room? I was asking Kenny, do you think one guy will become the guy, or do you think it'll be more likely a committee because they're close enough together and kind of talent and experience?
Yeah, I think what KP said was pretty spot on. I think they all have a little bit of a unique talent and skill set, and so I think that's kind of my job is to be able to carve out roles for those guys, where we're able to use all three of those guys. And I think naturally throughout the season, early in the season, I think kind of like he said, a lot of times you get a guy who ends up getting hot, and you just kind of roll with him, until you find an established back. So those guys will all have a role, early in the season, and then we'll kind of see who's playing the best and who's producing and go from there.
I think one thing Joey talked about last week was just how big you are in that starting group of receivers.
Yeah.
What does that do for you as an OC? I guess just with how you can kind of call different things, just everybody's at least 6'2" in that starting group.
Yeah, I think 6'2", and I think we have really good vertical speed, so we can challenge people down the field. We can win more of those 50-50 balls. Places I've been in the past, I've kind of had more shifty slot receiver type bodies out there. So excited to get to work with those guys, and anytime you get a one-on-one, if we put it close to some of those guys, they're going to go make the play. So I think we have a chance to be a really good red zone team this year. When you look out there and you've got big tight ends, and we average 6'2" across the board at receiver with the starters. We have a chance for some big body targets down there to throw and catch some touchdowns.
You just mentioned the tight ends right there. Obviously, you lose two big names out of that room. What's it been like so far in spring?
Yeah, so far have been pleased with that group. We haven't got to see much of Terrence Carter yet because he's been out a couple periods with a little bit of an injury, nothing serious. He'll be back full go on Friday, and then when we get back from spring break. So excited to get him back out there. I think he's got a chance to be a really dynamic guy, as a receiver. And then you got JC, who's kind of a do-it-all guy. He can put his hand in the ground and block people, and has shown up as a receiver. He had an explosive play in practice today. So I think those two guys, and then you got Jason Llewellyn, who's if he's coming in as your third, and a really solid blocker in the run game. So I think Coach Cochran does a really good job developing those tight ends. So I think we're in a good situation. I know losing two kind of hurts you, but I think with JC and Jason coming up through the program and developing, and then bringing in Terrence, I feel really good about that room.
You just mentioned Coach Cochran right there. How have you blended with that whole offensive personnel?
Really, really well. So I didn't really, other than Clay, our O-line coach, didn't really know any of those guys. But they've done an awesome job, buying into the system, working with me, being flexible and being easy to work with. And they're really just good dudes. So it's been easy for me to transition in there and take kind of control. And those guys have been awesome to work with. Really, no complaints from any of them. It's nice. Now that we got KP out of the room, it's a lot better.
And obviously you're running without Barrymore in the spring right now. Can you run us through the other quarterbacks and kind of how they've been performing?
Yeah, I think Will Hammond, he's been taking the reps with the ones. I think he's been doing a good job. You know, it's only 2 practices in. He's learning a new system. He's still really young. You know, he's still a redshirt freshman. But I think there's nobody in the building that prepares harder than Will Hammond. So in terms of being ready for practice, learning the system, doing all the things that you ask your quarterback to do, he's going to do all those to the umpteenth degree, way more. You know, he goes above and beyond anything that I could ever ask for him. So I've been extremely pleased with that. He's a pro already as a 19-year-old kid, the way that he approaches the game. And so he's just going to continually get better. I think he had a better day today than he did yesterday, and on Friday he's going to come out there and be even better than he was the first 2 days. That's just the way he works and his mindset. Mitch Griffiths, the transfer we brought in from Wake Forest, has been with the twos. He's been awesome. He's been awesome for the room. Great culture guy. You know, you talk to anybody in there from the strength staff to the training room, anybody in the program, everybody loves Mitch. He does a great job. Has really kind of taken almost a mentorship role for Will, you know, being an older guy who's been through some things in his career. So that's been pretty cool to see. He's been a great addition. I think he's practiced really well. He's one of those guys, he just kind of has a little gamer to him and just finds a way to throw completions. You know, that's a good trait for a quarterback. So he's got that about him, and so he's been doing a great job picking up the system and operating as a new guy. And then with the threes, since Chubb is hurt right now, we've got Holden Phillips, and he's been out there. He's been dealing. He's been good. You know, incoming. He should be at senior prom here, you know, in a couple weeks, but came in early and picked up the system. And he's kind of like Mitch in the sense of when the bullets start flying, he's got a calmness to him and can just operate and deal the ball. So I've been really pleased with that group. I think we've got a really strong group. The culture in there is really good. All really good kids, and I'm excited to see kind of, you know, how we all grow and progress throughout the year.
Do you have enough? Joey kind of talked about it last week, I guess, but you have enough arms. You made enough arms to make it work in practice.
Yeah, we do. I think you know, we got Jaden Morris as well, who's a guy that we moved over to quarterback basically for that reason, to be able to take some reps off of some other guys for the spring. So we'll be able to do that. And the good thing is too, my assistant quarterback coach, he threw for 60 touchdowns. So if we need an arm, he's you know, he can step in there and let that thing rip a little bit. I'm not so much for me anymore. I got a bum arm, so I won't be stepping in.
What do you consider the strength coming into this place at this time? You have, you know, there's sometimes you come into a place and it's a rebuild. This right here is, you're coming into something that is expected to contend.
Yeah. I think Coach McGuire has done a phenomenal job in these first, you know, couple of years in the program of building the culture and what the expectation and what the standard is around here and the way that we work and the way that we approach the day-to-day. I think he's done a great job bringing in good people. You know, you come into the building and we got really good people in here, and I think that's what you win with, right? You win with high standards, guys that want to come to work every day, and guys, you know, who are all aligned into what his vision for the program is. And I think we have that here, which is what excites me. You know, now it's up to us to go X's and O's and find where all the pieces fit in, but I'm pretty confident we'll be able to do that, and I know Coach Wood will do that on defense. So I think the culture and the people in the building are where it needs to be.
Speaking on culture, obviously Texas Tech is a well-known air raid and offensive juggernaut from years before. How do you, obviously you being one of the best offensive lines in all of college football, how do you, what type of culture are you here to set? What can we expect from this offense?
Yeah, I think the first thing, you know, in that very first offensive meeting that I had, you know, I don't think you back away from those expectations or the standard that's been set here. You know, our standard is to be the best offense in the nation. That's what I expect. That's what every single coach in there expects, and that's what the players should expect. And so the way that we work every day should reflect that. You know, I think from a stylistic, you know, in terms of what our identity on offense will look like. I mean, we're going to play fast. We're going to be aggressive. You know, in the pass game, we're going to be able to take shots down the field, and we're going to be able to line up, and we're going to be able to run the football. I believe in that wholeheartedly. I think to win a championship, you have to be a team that can run the ball to win. So we're going to do those things. We're going to play with great discipline, and at the end of the day, our job is to put points on the board. So we're going to go do everything that we can week to week to do that.
Got time for one more.
Obviously, it's still pretty early getting these guys on the field together, but just from previous tape of what some of like the transfers, like offensive linemen, what they did at their old schools, and some of the guys that are coming back, because where do you see the strength of this offensive line being?
Yeah, I think the strength is, I think we have two really good tackles that we brought in. I think Howard Sampson and Will Jados. are two guys that were much needed. You know, when you go back and watch the film, I think they're going to be instant impact guys. And I think the depth of the O-line, Coach McGuire said in the team meeting today, and I completely agree with him. We could look up in week 1 against Arkansas Pine Bluff, you know, you're playing 8 guys, you know, 7, 8 guys. I mean, there's guys, there's real competition in that room, and there's a lot of guys, especially those young guys who they've done a great job evaluating talent and recruiting young O-linemen. Coach Clay's done a great job developing those guys over the past year, and some of those guys are ready to step in and play. And so we can get into a situation where we're able to stay fresh, you know, and healthy throughout the season because we have 7 or 8 guys on that unit that you feel good about playing. So I think the top end talent is definitely there across the board, but I think the depth in that room is something that's really good that can be a strength as we, you know, you go late in the season, you're going to need, you know, that 6th, 7th guy to step up and be able to play for you. You know, very rarely do you go through a whole season with just your 5 starting offensive linemen. And so I think we're in a position right now where we're building that depth, and we've got the competition in that room to sustain that depth throughout the season.
Have you ever had a place where you had the depth that you have here?
No, not since. No, not really. Not the UIW and Texas State. We were both places. We were really successful on offense and fortunate to have some good players. But when you look at top to bottom, in terms of like the 1s and 2s that you roll out there in practice, I don't think I've been anywhere where there's really not just a drastic drop off. You know, and maybe it's not all of them, but maybe once, you know, your right tackle, you know, you put in the 2 right tackle and you can't even run a play, you know, that kind of thing. Here that, you know, we're able to go out there and get competitive reps with every group that we roll on the field.
You talked a lot about.
Go ahead.
Talked a lot about the depth, and I think Joey mentioned the other day about like rotating offensive linemen isn't something that really ever happens. I guess how realistic do you think that could be?
I think it can be. I know, you know, like an example that pops to my mind. I know the Patriots have done that before when Belichick was the head coach. So that's something that's been done. You know, maybe it's one of those things like, you know, football coach, that's just what we've been doing, and nobody's kind of challenged the norm. So, you know, if we feel like we have 7 or 8 guys that can play, and there's still that chemistry and that unity that you want from that group, which I think a lot of that has to do with the culture in that room and the way that Clay coaches those guys and the time that they spend together and kind of the bonds that they have in that room is how you create that. And so if we, you know, look up week 1 and we got 7 or 8 guys that deserve to play, we're going to find a way to make that happen.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.